What is up, everybody? Welcome to Unplugged with Tyler Winters and John Pearman. I am Tyler Winters. That is John Pearman. And as usual, just a fantastic show set up for today. Lots of things to discuss. One of the main points that I want to bring up, or that we're going to talk about, I ran across this post on Reddit, and somebody asked, would you get rid of When We Were Young Fest to bring Warped Tour back? I thought that was a really good question, and I thought, one, we could go over some of the Reddit responses there, but also give our takes on that. But before we get to us talking about that, guys, if you could, you can help support the show for as little as $3 a month. You can help keep the lights on, help us keep continuing to drive this ship. If you're interested, hit the support the show link in the show notes. And also, if you can't help support us financially, that is absolutely fine. We totally get it. But also, if you could, just stop what you're doing right now and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, unless you're driving. Leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts and or on Spotify. Those reviews really do go a long way, and it just helps confirm to other people looking for a podcast like ours that we are the podcast to be listening to. So we'd appreciate that. Also, real quick, have to mention the newsletter. The newsletter we've been running for... Man, I think it's been close to 4 years, maybe 5 years now. It's pretty much always been called the All Punked Up newsletter. I have rebranded that newsletter to Unplugged from All Punked Up, just to kind of go along with the new podcast name change as well. I like the Unplugged name that John and I came up with. It just kind of makes sense. It's basically going to be the exact same newsletter, but just like this podcast, which has remained the same since changing from the All Punked Up podcast, we're still going to give you a heavy dose of alternative rock, pop punk, emo news, but we might throw in some other music industry related news. You just never know. So,
we might talk Oscars.
You never know. So the newsletter is going to be the exact same, but we're going to throw in a little extra news here and there. So definitely check that out. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do so at unplugged.allpunkedup.com. There's a link in the show notes for that. Again, it's a weekly newsletter, goes out every week, either Saturday or Sunday. It'll hit your inbox. Also, the allpunkedup.com site has changed. It's basically now just a site that can kick you to our merch store, which is at shop.allpunkedup.com. It'll kick you to our newsletter site, which is where you could sign up for the newsletter, but it's also where we're housing the news now. So not only will you get a newsletter every week, but we'll also be releasing news throughout the week that doesn't necessarily hit your inbox. So you could definitely keep checking there. And then the other thing the allpunkedup.com site kicks you to is the podcast. So just a few updates wanted to share. So let's just go ahead and get into the show. And before we get to the news, John, I feel like we should mention, for anybody who heard our first show as Unplugged, we brought on a past co-host of ours who kind of helped kickstart the All Punked Up podcast. And we were talking about the movie Twister. But before that, I guess I should say, we were talking about how when John and I either talk to a guest or we bring certain things up on this podcast, we're either cursing that person or band.
Birthing something.
Or, yeah, we're birthing something or blessing something. We don't know what's going to happen. So we ended up talking about the movie Twister. And then John joked that, somebody's going to die this week that was in the movie Twister. Well, I thought it was funny because a Super Bowl ad this week there's a new Twisters movie coming out. So I thought that was just very weird because we were just talking about how we either curse something or bless something. So this one seems to be a blessing because the Twister franchise has just...
Well, that movie in itself is such a blessing. So
yes, exactly. So I thought that was funny, and I thought that was worth bringing up. So everybody get ready for Twisters. I don't know when it comes out, but it looks like it's about the same thing.
They're reframing it as Twisters and not just trying to do like Twister.
Yeah. Well,
but it seems to be the same kind of story, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. It seems like it's almost going to be the exact same thing, but...
And I'm guessing that the CGI is going to look worse than it did in the original, just based on movies I've seen.
Yeah.
In the last 15 years.
It almost. Do you think it should just go straight to the Sci-Fi network, straight to TV?
If there's like some sort of mammal involved, like twisters and whales or something. Yeah.
Twisters and whales.
What was it? Sharknado? Was that
Yeah,
the one?
Sharknado. Yeah,
That was
that's
a
what
good
I was
one, yeah.
thinking. All right.
Tremendous.
So I thought that was funny to bring up. So and we're gonna keep doing that. Anytime that we feel we bring something up and then we've either cursed it or blessed it, we'll keep you in the know.
Anytime we're right, we'll basically bring it up.
Oh, for sure. All right. So, John, before we get to the news, it was a good week for new music released. We've had, let's see, Girlfriends. They released a song called Shut Up and Kiss Me. It really has some...
I don't like to be talked to that way.
That's how you prefer it?
No, I don't like to be talked to that way.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
I'm old-fashioned.
Okay, yeah. I mean, everybody's got their thing. Girlfriends have their own kink, it sounds like. But I don't know if you listen to this one. This one has Blink-182 vibes for sure, especially with the beginning intro. I do think you guys would like this if you like Girlfriends. Hey Violet, they're back with Hopeless Records, I think. Oh, God, I hope I have that right. They have a new song called Uncomplicated, which I thought was amazing. Stand Atlantic's back with a new one called Warzone. You guys know how I feel about Stand Atlantic, one of my favorites. They've really kind of changed their sound up, though, in the last couple years, maybe. So I don't know how I really feel about their new sound, really, but it's fine. I still like Bonnie and Stand Atlantic. I think they do whatever they're doing. I feel like they're doing it right, whatever kind of style of music they want to create. So that song's called Warzone. Definitely recommend checking it out. Daisy Grenade. They're on Pete Wentz's label. Sorry, I can't think of what the name of the label is right now, but they have a new song called Liquor and Kerosene, and it's featuring The Maine. So I highly recommend checking them out. Daisy Grenade is one band that I definitely think can make some noise in the scene and for pop punk. We just talked about pop punk peaking.
I thought we just killed it.
Yeah, I know. And I do want to reiterate that pop punk can do better. They just need to take chances. Pop punk needs to take chances. That's all.
And you better do it now.
And you should do it now. And I do think, for God's sakes, labels, do something. Push those bands. Focus on those bands only. I know you have other bands, other artists on your labels, but for God's sakes, focus on one thing and push. If there is a pop punk nostalgia, an emo
I like to be talked to that way.
If pop punk and emo has been coming back and there's this revival, why are you not putting all of your resources into promoting what you've got and going all in? I feel like
that's
the
just
labels
not economically responsible.
I think it is. I think you have to put all your resources in, and I don't know if that's what you do now, because the revival's kind of been going on for a couple of years now, and I don't know where it seems like it's kind of in limbo right now. But you got to push it. If you see something, you push it. If you see something happening that's gaining in popularity, it's gaining attention, you have to keep pushing it. You have to keep pushing it. And they just, I don't know what the labels are doing. I really don't. I think they're too focused on other things. But if something is trending, like music, good music, nostalgic music, the pop punk sound, the emo sound, push that. And then everybody else on your roster will benefit. It's how it used to happen in the past. Yeah. Why can't it work now?
I mean, one of the things I'm kind of noticed with the Grammys, it seemed like even the newer artists or artists that have been in the business like a long time and just been like waiting and waiting to kind of break.
Right.
It used to be that, new artists would just break and they didn't have to grind it out.
Right. I
think it's just harder to grab that attention for new artists.
It's tough nowadays too, because you do have, TikTok and you have Reels and all this stuff that they're trying to make these things go viral. But at the same time, I mean, you got to do other things too. I don't know, spend some money to, promote to radio, to do the things that you need to do. And it falls on the bigger labels too. I'm surprised that they don't see it. They still kind of keep pushing rap and hip hop and pop. You don't really get a lot of rock songs unless you're Machine Gun Kelly. But I don't know. It's just it's weird, and I feel like
push that back in.
Yeah, I don't know
whatever it's coming out of.
But yeah, so back to the music. Alien Ant Farm has a new one called So Cold. 408 came out with another new song, Life Goes On. I feel like they're one of the best pop punk bands right now. I don't know. Like, I feel like they are doing it right when it comes to writing music. I feel like they have some pop mainstream vibes that I think they're on Big Noise. I think if Big Noise spends some money to promote them on radio, gives them a push, I think they would explode. I really do. But that's the thing, too, when it comes to, I think, this mainstay on mainstream for pop punk. You almost have to have an artist that has some notoriety, that has some, you know who that is, and then you push the other artists behind them, too. But Paris, they're back with a new song called Burn the Witch. And let's see, Games We Play, another one of Pete Wentz's, I think he's on Pete Wentz's label. He has a new song. Games We Play has a new song, Petty Enemy. Definitely recommend checking that out. And then Car Park, we've talked about them before. It's a 3-piece female band, Born to Be Average, really good song. And then Pearl Jam is back with a new song called Dark Matter. They have a new album coming out, I think in April, late April sometime. So be on the lookout for that for any Pearl Jam fans out there. So there we go. That's it for new music. John, was there anything new music-wise that you checked out that stood out to you this week at all?
Not from this week. I mean, I've still been kind of listening to the new Alkaline Trio a lot.
Oh, okay.
New Ty Segall a lot. Haven't really delved into too much else, to be honest, new-wise. So.
Okay.
But the new Alkaline Trio is really strong. I know it was talked a lot about in our chat for the website.
Yeah,
a lot of people liked
chat.
it. So.
Yeah, one album that I went back to after I went on my pop punk has peaked rant last week, because I brought up State Champs, the King of the New Age album, and I started listening to that. I listened to that album at least maybe 5 times last week, so I've been diving into that. Just forgot how good of an album that was.
It was a past Record of the Year winner for you.
It was, yep. Oh. And after listening to it again this week, I have no regrets about picking that one. Although I remember Pale Waves' album at that time is up there. Another great album. Anyways, in the news, John, I figured you'd like this one. Paul McCartney's long-lost bass was missing for over 50 years. It's been found. So I think that's pretty sweet, and it's now back in Paul's possession. It was a 1961 Hofner bass
Viola
guitar.
Bass?
Yeah. I know exactly which one they're talking about when I was reading
Yeah, you
this.
can almost picture it.
Yeah. So the bass guitar was used on the first 2 albums the Beatles wrote, which also included Love Me Do and She Loves You. So some hits were created on this bass. It's an iconic bass. So that's awesome. So yeah, some grassroots campaign called the Lost Bass Project was launched, and they've been working on trying to find this bass, and they found it. And now Paul's got it. Apparently it was stolen, maybe out of a trailer or something back in 1960.
Yeah, it was when he was with Wings.
72
so
or something.
Early 70s, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it is the actual bass. It's been authenticated by Hofner, and I think it just had some minor wear and tear. And he said that it's going to, some minor adjustments are needed to make it playable again. But that's awesome. An iconic bass like that.
Yeah, you might have to rework some of the electronics in there. I'm sure it's a little bit
right. Because I think it was in somebody's attic for a while.
Yeah.
So that's not really a good place for...
That's cool. That's probably like the most recognizable piece of equipment that the Beatles used, really, if you think about it.
Like I can just think back to some of the old, clips of the Beatles, and you picture Paul playing that bass. So
yeah, I feel like that's what you see on Ed Sullivan. It might not be that exact bass, but that style. Yeah.
But something like that. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was worth bringing up. But 50 years, man, it's like, that's a long-ass time. And I feel like that bass probably should have just been put on a milk carton or something, right? I mean, that could have helped get it found faster, I think.
Yeah, I think the guy that stole it felt really guilty, like once he realized what he'd done, so he just got rid of it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it got traded for some booze or something like that,
who knows?
What I was reading. But yeah, it's cool that he has it back.
Yeah, because I mean, I get that. And because even my equipment that I have, and of course, we were nothing like the Beatles or any other band or anything like that. But
don't sell us so short.
well, my stuff, like I have the guitar that I wrote a lot of songs with. I can't part with those. I just can't. Just from a sentimental value. So I bet for him that bass is super sentimental. Means way too much. So
yeah,
that's
I bought it while he was in Hamburg.
Yeah,
during their Hamburg stay. Been with him pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. So just thought it was a cool story to share. Also, what's also cool, John, and you're a vinyl collector. Everybody knows that. But there may be a niche of vinyl that you should probably start trying to get into and trying to find. Because porn soundtracks are coming back. I didn't even know they were a thing. But apparently, I want to say in some places in Europe, I don't have the article in front of me.
Amsterdam?
Maybe, I don't know, but you weren't
just
able
a guess.
You weren't able to get like porn, like
that's
VHS
not Amsterdam
and stuff like that. But there was like a workaround where you could put the sound on vinyl, and people would buy that. So it would just be the porn audio that you could get.
I thought you were talking about the actual music.
Well, I'm getting to that, but it sounds like the actual music soundtracks are becoming a thing, because I guess back in the day there were those soundtracks, and I guess some of those soundtracks started getting played at like certain clubs, like gay clubs and maybe other niche clubs, and that's what made those soundtracks kind of skyrocket. I don't know about skyrocket. I don't know if that's the correct term, but get some popularity.
Become engorged.
Yeah. Oh, good word. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. But apparently,
full and veiny.
But apparently, these are coming back. I don't know if this means that we're going to start seeing soundtracks for newer material that's coming out, or what, or if it's the old. But I imagine, John, if you end up finding some very old ones, you might be able to sell those for a nice penny.
Now, I have heard from listening to some old Opie and Anthony shows, they found some old 8-track audio porn.
Yeah.
So it's like these just actors, just doing scripted, like fake porn for 8-track tapes, and they're hilarious.
Okay, so but nothing's actually really happening. It's just
it's like Foley art. Somebody's making thwacking sounds.
Okay, two people are in front of mics, basically, is all it is.
And just the dialogue is hilarious, because it's like people saying what they think people would say. Like, it's not,
So it's not a joke either. It's
not that I've ever watched it, but even in real porn, the dialogue is generally pretty dumb.
You're right, but nowadays it seems like it's dumb on purpose. Like, they know what they're doing.
I don't know about nowadays. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, but I would guess that the more popular music is probably that 70s era kind of vintage.
Yeah, that waka 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 waka. The type that you think of from back then. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting.
70s soundtracks are really big right now too. So the blaxploitation soundtracks are always really cool. Because generally they got like a really good artist to compose it. There's some like Curtis Mayfield, and you have Isaac Hayes doing Shaft and all those famous ones. But
yeah. So last week, if you guys listened, we brought up John had a no-name band, garage band, had 250 vinyl records, 45s pressed, and John ended up selling one of those no-name records for $2,000. Okay. And it's the rarity game that John benefited from. So I would think this could be, something very similar. You find one of these soundtracks.
Sure. Well, if it's somebody going in and re-releasing the material, then probably not.
Okay.
So if it's something that was never put on vinyl and then they're just compiling it and releasing it.
Right.
That's not going to up the value any. But I think there are some, like probably Deep Throat, like the really big movies from the 70s probably had soundtracks. Yeah,
that was one of the ones listed in the article.
Debbie Does Dallas probably had a soundtrack, just because there were some, dirty movies that got like cinematic releases back then that were. But other than that, I know I've seen compilations of adult film music that people have done over the last 20 years, but
Yeah.
never partook.
Okay. Well, it'd be interesting, guys. So be on the lookout if you're at any garage sales or whatever. And if you
Horror
have questions,
soundtracks are real big too. So
that's true. Very true.
like vintage horror soundtracks, like anything John Carpenter did, or
yeah,
pretty valuable.
John Carpenter. He was the one that did the experimental sounds, right? He was was he the one that would put like tools and stuff inside a grand piano and then play it?
I think you're thinking of John Cage.
Oh, maybe. I remember learning about it in college, but
John Cage had like an experimental song that was just silence for like, and the title of the song was just the length of the silence. So you just hear the idea was you hear the room, like, so you hear people going like that.
Ugh.
And yeah.
Weird.
No, there's a couple guys. Harry Parch is another guy that like made his own instruments and shit like that.
Gotcha.
20. That's probably who you're thinking of. John Carpenter did Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Like Escape from New York and The Thing.
Okay. So he wrote the Halloween theme song? Nice.
Yeah, and people tend to prefer Halloween 2 because it's more synthy. Halloween 1's like on a piano.
Yeah.
It's like lo-fi piano, and then
Yep.
Halloween 2 is like very synthy. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. Nolan, ever since my son, 11-year-old son, has always taken a liking to piano. He's now in piano lessons, but before then he learned that he could just play by ear. So he just walked up and just started playing the Halloween theme song. I'm like, what the heck? Like, he's fascinated with horror. So
has he seen the Halloween films?
no, we won't let him.
Okay.
But he really wants to watch that stuff. But you know,
A couple more years, maybe.
yeah, oh yeah, we'll do a deep dive together for sure. when
It
it's
didn't
time.
harm me seeing
No.
Halloween 2 at like 6 years old because I was watching Christmas Story on VHS and it was right after it. And
I just don't know how I feel about having him watch, two teenagers, boy and girl being together.
Sex
and stuff.
murdered.
Yeah, right. So
hey, that'll scare him off of it,
that might. All right. So one of the main things that came out of the news this week that I think is definitely worth mentioning is Spotify has partnered with Bands in Town to enhance live music discovery for artists. So get this, and we wrote this in our newsletter that we send out every week. So guys, unplug.allpunkedup.com. Go there now. Subscribe to the newsletter. But basically, what we wrote was the streaming giant Spotify has announced a new partnership with Bands in Town, which, for those who don't know, it's a website and app that helps users track touring artists and find nearby shows. The partnership allows Spotify to integrate Bands in Town listings directly within the Spotify experience, seamlessly connecting fans with their favorite artists' concert schedules. So this is cool. I mean, I think Spotify obviously gets a bad rap for the low payouts that they pay for streaming. We all know that. But if we really look at what Spotify's doing, they're really the only ones that are trying to actually help artists. In my opinion, they brought, like, you can sell merch on Spotify, and now people, especially for you artists on the come up, smaller artists, now it's making gig discovery easier for you. So I really like what Spotify's doing. I think they are the superior streaming platform when it comes to music creators and artists. And this is just another example of that. I don't think Apple Music has any merch sales. I don't think they have any discovery of local gigs or any nearby shows or anything like that. So this is huge. I think this is great for Spotify. Instead of integrating their own thing, which I think they were trying to do at some point, it looks like they're just going to go with the Bands in Town route. So, John, you're a Spotify user, right?
Yes, daily.
Okay, so, I mean, this could be huge, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good idea. It's a step in the right direction.
It definitely is.
Even if it's just for optics,
Right.
If we can get some bands to benefit from it, that's all that matters.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the thing is, too, and I don't know, but maybe you'll end up being able to buy tickets through Spotify. Spotify will get a little kickback of that, and that just helps the platform grow and actually make money, because we know that they lose money year after year after year. I think they were actually profitable recently, so that's good. So we'll see. I think it's great. So I don't know if this is already been implemented. I don't think it's been implemented yet because the partnership was just announced. So I would imagine over the next coming months, You'll start seeing Spotify hitting, sending out notifications, or when you open up the app, you might get a little advertisement to kind of check out the new features and whatnot. So we'll see.
I need to do a better job of like following artists that I like and things like that, so that stuff's recommended to me a little bit more.
Yeah, I need to do that too. So yeah, guys, let's do that. If you're a Spotify user, go in and for all of the artists that you regularly listen to and that you really like, actually follow them. Instead of just adding them to a playlist. If you actually follow them, you'll actually get notified of new music for sure, and their release radar. I feel like you're more likely to
get recommended something that's closer to your...
Exactly. I'm going to do that too.
Preference.
So, but then also, if shows are coming nearby, you'll be notified, because obviously Spotify is going to want you to use their app, and Bands in Town we know is a good app and website. So I think this is good. I think this is only going to... This just makes the app itself and company stronger. I love it.
You're darn tootin'.
All right.
Sorry for my language.
So that's good for artists. That's good news for artists. What isn't good news for artists? This week, John, there was news that said U.S. visa fees for international musicians are set to skyrocket by over 100%. I think it's more like 120%. So, yeah, it's... let me pull up the thing here. So again, we wrote this in our newsletter, on our newsletter website, unplugged.allpunkedup.com. Go there. Basically, international musicians seeking to work in the United States will face a significant hurdle this year as U.S. visa petition fees rise by over 100%. These changes set to take effect in April. We'll see the O and P visas commonly used by musicians surpass $1,000 for the first time. So the fees were $460. They've now risen to $1,000. Now, this I don't think is going to like really break an artist financially, but if they have a lot of members in the band, it could. It's already really expensive for international artists to tour and come to the States. So this just makes it that much harder. I know, I feel like when I was talking to Bonnie Fraser from Stand Atlantic a couple years ago, I think she was... I don't want to say complaining, but talking about the hardships of coming over to the States from Australia. And I mean, that's a band. Think of all the great, European bands, the British bands and Australian bands in the scene. It's going to be harder for them to get over to the States. We might see them making less stops in the States because of this. So it's not good, but it sounds like, I want to say the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is the one that are raising these fees, and they are saying that the changes are necessary to help with cost of immigration services. So I don't know. It's tough. I hate to see that, the artists are going to be the ones that are hit the hardest when it comes to these visa fees, but we'll see how this all plays out.
It's going to make you think twice.
It is.
Write your congressman.
One other piece of news before we get to the main topic. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced the nominees for 2024. We have Oasis, Ozzy Osbourne, Mariah Carey, Sinead O'Connor, Cher, Sade, Mary J. Blige, Jane's Addiction, and A Tribe Called Quest. Other finalists include Dave Matthews Band, Peter Frampton, Eric B. and Rakim, Foreigner, Kool and the Gang, and Lenny Kravitz. And just so you know, to be eligible for nomination, an individual artist or band must have released its first commercial recording at least 25 years prior to the year of nomination. So, John, of that list, who do you think gets in?
Can you go give me the list again? I was too busy trying to correct Sade. It's Sade.
Oasis, Ozzy Osbourne, Mariah Carey, Sinead O'Connor, Cher, Sade. Mary J. Blige, Jane's Addiction, and A Tribe Called Quest. Dave Matthews Band, Peter Frampton, Eric B. and Rakim, Foreigner, Kool and the Gang, and Lenny Kravitz.
Ozzy should be in.
I think he'll get in. Which I think he's already in with Black Sabbath, maybe?
Correct, yeah, that would be in. Tribe Called Quest should be in.
Yep,
Since
I agree.
It's not really a rock, it's a music hall of fame. It's not a rock and roll hall of fame.
Yep.
There was one more in there that I thought should be. Not Sinead O'Connor.
I don't know why I said Sade. Like, obviously, Sade.
It's all right. If you're not used to... I mean, she was kind of big in the 80s and
yeah.
hasn't been since. So
I've definitely heard of her, but just yeah.
Jane's Addiction was the other one that I'm sure yes
yeah.
on.
I wouldn't be surprised if they got in, but I don't think they get in. Oasis. I don't think they get in yet. I think.
Yeah, I kind of placed them in the same spot as Jane's Addiction. Like they had a really short discography. Like they don't have a ton of albums. So
yeah, I feel like Oasis could have been bigger in the States. I know they're absolutely huge.
They got in their own way.
Yeah, they did. I think Mariah Carey can get in. I really do. She
sold some records. So.
She's the biggest one on this list, in my opinion. I don't know about Lenny Kravitz. I think he'll eventually get in. Dave Matthews Band will eventually get in. Peter Frampton, I would assume.
Well, if he's not in already, why now?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Sometimes, you know how these rock halls are. They just wait a long time, and sometimes they wait till they're dead to allow them.
I mean, do you feel like I feel?
Do I feel like you feel?
About Peter Frampton?
I mean, I don't know how you feel.
Oh, it's a song.
Oh, see, over my head. I don't know. I just know the name, and I know he's got some hits, but I don't know.
He's got that one annoying song.
Cher is in, right? Is she in with Sonny Bono and Cher, or no?
I think Sonny and Cher are both in, yeah.
Okay. But she's maybe going in as a solo. I mean, if it wasn't for her, arguably we wouldn't have the auto-tune sound.
Fishnets.
And fishnets, yeah. So, I don't know. I think Mariah Carey is my favorite to get in. And I do think Ozzy gets in. If he doesn't get in this year, he'll eventually get in on his own, I think, too. So, but I think Mariah Carey should be a
always here, you know?
I agree. I don't like it when, they wait too long. I feel like the Baseball Hall of Fame does the same thing. And think of that, Hall of Fame voters. Think of that.
Yeah.
Because if you know they're going to get in, they may not be first ballot Hall of Famers, but take that out of consideration.
What's your opinion on steroid guys?
That's an interesting one because you could say that if it wasn't for the steroid era in baseball, who knows what would have happened to baseball's popularity, right? I mean, so you almost have to reward them some way. I think it's fine to let them in with an asterisk, just kind of explain like this was the steroid era because it was what it was. You shouldn't erase history, I don't think, So I think you let them in, but they're marked, It is what it is.
I think to get in, they have to verbally admit what they did, and then they can get in.
Agreed. I think that is a very good idea. And then they get in with an asterisk.
Cop to it.
Yep. Like, we all know you did it. It's like, just stop.
Everybody was, the pitchers were doing it too, so, whatever.
But, and here's the thing. Baseball knew that the players were doing it, and baseball benefited off of it greatly. And now you're going to penalize the players, but you knew it was going on. So
I just wish Griffey would have broke the 61 number cleanly.
I know.
Then you'd have a clean home run record. You could ignore all the Sosa numbers and Bonds and McGuire.
Yeah, but now isn't what's his name? Aaron Judge, doesn't he own it now?
He owns the AL record.
Okay. So, you could say that that's the true one, assuming he didn't use anything, which seems like they're heavily tested now. So
he's just a giant human being.
He is. So, all right, John, let's go ahead and get to the main topic today, which is, would you get rid of When We Were Young Fest to bring Warped Tour back? Now, this question was posed on Reddit. Do you want me to go through some of the comments, John, or do we want to kind of go share our thoughts first?
I want to share our thoughts first.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
No,
okay.
I'll go.
All right, so what do you think?
At my age, I would prefer to have it all wrapped up into one nice little package if I was going to do that kind of show.
Uh-huh.
And Warped Tour is kind of the same way, so I guess it would be closer, but I don't know. I think there's just a higher volume of good bands at When We Were Young Fest as opposed to Warped Tour because they're not signing it on for, a months-long tour. So
yeah,
I think keeping When We Were Young Fest for me and my elevated age is better.
Yeah, so I'm pulled in different directions here. Like I think I like the idea of Warped Tour coming back because it was such an awesome experience, and it wasn't in one location like When We Were Young Fest is. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, and plus now we do have Sad Summer Fest, which has seemed to replaced Warped Tour because that is a traveling festival. However, it doesn't seem like as good of bands. There are some great bands that are on Sad Summer Fest, so don't get me wrong. But Warped Tour was usually stacked, right, with a lot of good bands. Sad Summer, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a watered down version, but it's a lesser version of Warped Tour, and maybe it does get to that Warped Tour status eventually. Plus, I don't think it goes on as long. Like maybe it goes on for a month instead of the whole summer or whatever that Warped Tour did. So I don't know. I do like the idea of When We Were Young Fest, and I like that they at least have, they play multiple weekends. So there could be up to 6, because they'll play 3 weekends, Saturday and Sunday, Friday and Saturday, or whatever it is. So you might get 6 shows, but I don't like that it's in one location. I don't want to have to travel to Las Vegas. Although, even if I can afford to go, it's still a lot of money. You have to go to Las Vegas. You have to pay for a room to stay there. The tickets themselves to the festival are expensive. And I may not get to see every single band that I want to see. And I feel like for the price tag, I feel like I should be able to. I get the logistics is just tough. And I know that that's not realistic, I guess.
And you have issues with slot machines too, so that's danger.
Exactly. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of torn between the two. I would like to see When We Were Young Fest instead of, do a weekend in Las Vegas, but then maybe do a weekend like a north, south, east, west locations.
East Coast, West Coast.
Yeah.
Central states, something like that. Yeah.
And then I feel like it's perfect. I actually feel like Warped Tour should come back and just do that. I think I mentioned that a long time ago on another episode. I think that's the way to do it. But, I mean, I get it. It's, logistics are tough. But I think that would be the coolest experience. And I think they'd probably get more bang for their buck, the festival itself. So I would like to see that. That would be my vote. I don't necessarily think Warped Tour needs to come back because now we have When We Were Young Fest and Sad Summer Fest is already here. So
I just don't know that the young audience is as large as it was for a Warped Tour style tour as 20 years ago.
Yeah. So it's just different.
It might not
now.
fiscally make sense.
It may not. And apparently it was really tough to run. We had Kevin Lyman on way back when the All Punked Up podcast started. And, he said that they were lucky if they broke even financially. Yeah. So obviously there's reasons why Warped Tour is no longer here. But there's also, for those same reasons, there's reason to believe that there hasn't been anything similar besides Sad Summer take its place. So let's read some, let's see what the everybody's saying here. So the post was, would you get rid of When We Were Young Fest to bring Warped Tour back? The Redditor said, I've really been thinking about this question. My answer would be yes, because I was never able to make it to Warped Tour. But also, we usually don't get to hear bands play full albums, exception for anniversary tours or Green Day's tour where they're playing Dookie and American Idiot. The fact that Warped Tour would tour is just a better concept, since it lets many more fans be able to see it closer to them instead of traveling across the country to Vegas to Where We Were Young Fest. Tell me what you think. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. So I'll just kind of go through some of these. One person says, I'm a college student from New York. I'm not getting to Vegas. I'll take Warped Tour. I'm an adult that has to work and gets stuck with too many other responsibilities. One day in a close city is ideal versus Vegas. See, that's what I get. Like, I feel like when it comes to When We Were Young Fest, it caters to the older crowd, like our demographic, like late 30s, early 40s. And late 40s, early 40s have families. We're married. We have jobs. Like, it's not that easy to do the things, like to get out there.
If I tried to do the Warped Tour show we went to now, I'd die.
That too.
It was so hot.
It was so damn hot. One other person says, 0 chance I'm flying across the country to spend the day in Las Vegas out in the sun with like 20,000 other people to see Newfound Glory play for 30 minutes and paying out the ass for the privilege. I'd love a Warped Tour reboot with a bunch of under-the-radar and bubbling up bands with a couple headliners if they rotated. Let's go down here. Somebody says, no question. Obviously, just the fact that it's a tour and not a single date you have to flock to is unquestionably superior. So they're a fan of bringing Warped Tour back. I live in Vegas and I'd rather have Warped Tour. Not about to fork over $900 for my wife and I just to relive my youth. See, that's the thing too, the price tag, man. It's just that's the main thing. But who's to say if Warped Tour came back, how much that is gonna cost too?
I mean, I don't remember how much Warped Tour was, to be honest. So
I can't imagine it was more than $30 for the ticket back then. I mean, we were 18, so that's 20 years ago.
I was loaded. I wouldn't have cared.
Here's what. Oh yeah, you were. One person says, "In a perfect world, sure, but truth is, Warped Tour died for a reason. Most of the bands in when we were young wouldn't be doing modern Warped because the bands barely make any money and mostly did it to break into the scene back in the day. Also, realistically, to even work now, tickets would probably still be over $100. We just said that. So, I imagine Warped Tour would be cheaper to go to than when we were young, but yeah." Warped was special, and I'm glad I went to so many while it existed, this person says. They wouldn't be nearly as cheap today. Yep. So, yeah, it sounds like they kind of have... Everybody has the same views as we do. It'd be nice if Warped Tour was here. The price is really high for When We Were Young Fest. It would be nice if When We Were Young Fest... I think the answer is, and I would love to see When We Were Young Fest do this, and we already mentioned it, but I think have 4 different locations in the U.S. so everybody can decide to go to a closer spot to see it. They're already doing about 6 shows a year anyway, but it's all in one location. If we can just spread that out, I think that'd be great.
I agree.
And who knows, you might actually get more people overall to come out.
I agree and disagree.
Yeah, so that's a tough question. That's a tough question.
So we want regional when we were Young Fest.
Yeah.
Or just move it around.
Yeah, just move it around.
Do 2 a year and move it around.
Yeah. To a different city every year.
Spring and fall, move it around.
Yeah.
We solved it.
Maybe they got something with Las Vegas, a deal with Las Vegas or something. Who knows?
Maybe they owe.
Yeah, and they can't get out. All right. All right, John. Let's call it. Thanks, guys, for listening to Unplugged with Tyler Winters and John Pierman. We appreciate you coming back week after week. Until next week. Peace.
Bye.